President Akufo-Addo has directed the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to begin engagements with the IMF to support an economic program. This follows government's decision not to go to the IMF. Let me share extracts of the statement released today announcing the decision, and you can see it right there on the screen. The President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has authorized Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to commence formal engagements with the International Monetary Fund, inviting the fund to support an economic program put together by the government of Ghana. This follows a telephone conversation between the President and the IMF Managing Director, Ms. Kristalina Georgieva, conveying Ghana's decision to engage with the fund. At a meeting on June 30, 2022, Cabinet indicated its support for the decision. The engagement with the IMF will seek to provide balance of payment support as part of a broader effort to quicken Ghana's build back in the face of challenges induced by the COVID-19 pandemic and recently the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and is signed by Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah. All right, so you have seen that statement coming from government. This follows Finance Minister's categorical statement that we will never go to the IMF, yet his deputy also stated that if it becomes necessary, we may have to go to the IMF. You've also followed conversations from the minority and other finance experts who have warned that it will be too late if we do not go to an IMF or get support from IMF. You've also heard the former President John Mahama talking about the fact that the government doesn't want to be taking on, and that is why government doesn't want to go to the IMF. We can listen to finance experts on what they make of this decision by government.
Our liquidity is not good, and we may have to go to the fund for support. I think the finance minister came back and said that we are not going. I maintained my position, and in October 26, which was my birthday, I said the same thing and gave the same analysis. The finance minister then, the tape you played, confirmed that Ghana is not going. But I recently also came up again and said, our international reserve has been depleting. You don't have the funds to support your international trade transactions. You cannot go and borrow at a higher interest rate to support the economy. So take the program that you have done to IMF. IMF will support you with some funds. Already Kenya have done the same thing. So Ghana, as we have been discussing, you have already designed a program. Take the program to them, convince them, and they are ready to support you with funds to maintain the international reserve. I think where we have gotten to as a country, where we have seen inflation rate going up, we have seen our cedi devaluing. Even yesterday, we have heard the trade union associations demanding 20% in terms of what they call cola. It's becoming very difficult. And it is the right direction that the government has given the indication that we have to go to IMF. Remember, in one of my presentations on Joy, I mentioned that IMF is not focusing on restrictions. That has been the problem with Ghana. We say when you go to IMF, they will restrict you.
There, Dr. William Prepra speaking earlier to my colleague Darrell Kwao. We can now get on the phone and speak with Professor Lord Mensah. He's an associate professor of finance with the University of Ghana Business School. I'm grateful for your time this afternoon. Does this come to you as a surprise? I mean, you were one of those who said it's premature to think of going to IMF.
Yes, I think I'm surprised for now to get this information that government has directed the finance minister to start looking at the direction of the IMF. Because, you know, government gave us two options. And the option economics is about having options and then choosing one and then maximizing the usage of what you have chosen. Clearly, if you go back online, you will see some of the statements that came from the finance minister, thinking that he is a minister, he owns the information that he's putting on there. He owns, you know, the economy. And as a result of that, whatever he's telling Ghanaians, it's almost closer to the truth. So effectively, I'm surprised because we've had a e-levy being implemented. And if e-levy is being implemented, that was the option that was chosen by the government. And in the end, we are expecting the government to maximize the little that is coming, to ensure the usage of the little that is coming, to ensure that we feel better. I thought maybe economic management is about having options and then making a choice. And as a result of that, you maximize, you know, the usage of the choice that you've made in that regard. But that is not what I'm seeing. I see a situation where, you know, government wants to have everything available, all the possible choices, and then try making. If we try this right, that's not work, we move on to the next one. And look at the state of time that we are using to do this. We creating what we call policy uncertainty. And there's no economy that grows, you know, with this policy, this kind of policy uncertainty. So is the government going to scrap the e-levy, or they will continue with it and still enjoy the benefits of the IMF? Apart from the benefits, remember IMF is coming with other conditionalities. And if the conditionalities are not in favor to the ordinary Ghanaian, then the ordinary Ghanaian is going to take a double dose of the pain as a result of, you know, what is happening on the ground as we speak. So for me, I don't see that there's a management going on. We had two options, and I trusted the finance minister, knowing very well that he owns the economy. He has more information in the strong room than I do as I sit here. And as a result of that, he's making the right decision for us. But that is not what we are saying. And so effectively, for me, I'm surprised. But then in the end, that's a choice that has been made now. But we will have to see whether the government is going to scrap the e-levy or not. That is what I'm waiting for.
Professor Lord Mensah, I'm grateful for your time this afternoon. He's an associate professor of finance of the University of Ghana Business School. Now, let's take you to Parliament now, where my colleague Kojo Asante joins us live with some reactions from the House. You recall that the minority has been on this case and calling on government to hide its pride and go back to the IMF. Kojo Asante, what can you report from Parliament?
Profile this Friday.
Aisha, so three of the minority MPs have so far spoken with, say that it is refreshing that government is seeking IMF support, but that government should have done so much earlier. I spoke to Dr. Hazel Atofosin, who is ranking member on the Finance Committee, and he told me that government should have swallowed its pride much early on and gone to the IMF. But if you look at where our current debt position is now, it's going to make it very difficult for the country to get a better IMF deal, because there are countries like Sri Lanka and Zambia who have all made the request to IMF to seek support, but haven't gotten a deal yet because of their precarious financial situation. He cites our debt to a GDP situation, which he says will make it much difficult for us. He also says that in the coming days, the minority are going to support the position announced yesterday by former President John Mahama when he spoke at the launch of that think tank, that government or the minority side is not going to support any loan from government that is not project specific. Currently before Parliament is a $1 billion syndicated loan agreement, and the minority said they are not going to support this. I also spoke with Dr. Alhaji ABF Hussein, who is the MP for Sagnerigu, and he had specific concerns about the conduct of the finance minister. We know that the finance minister had been categorical that government was not going to seek IMF, and that the country was a proud nation. And he's asking what has changed now. He's calling for his head. He's asking for the finance minister to either be sacked or resigned, because he told Ghanaians that government was not seeking an IMF program because it was banking its hope on e-levy. And now you are charging e-levy and you are going to the IMF. He says that is double speaking, and the finance minister must either resign or be sacked. We've also been hearing from the MP for Ningo Pram, Sam George, who also read to me a Facebook post and a tweet from then vice presidential candidate Vice President Baumia, saying that if the government, then John Dramani Mohammed's government, had listened to sound advice for people like him and the NPP, then there will be no need for them to embark on an IMF deal. And so he said that the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, should bow his head in shame because he lied to the people, he deceived them. Those were the claims he's making. And so if you look at the House today, since the information trickled in, the minority are yet to hold a public briefing. They'll be doing so in the next hour or so, and they are going to let Ghanaians know what the official position is. But they say it's refreshing that government has decided to finally bite the bullet and go to the IMF.
Well, Kwasante, what other business is in the House today?
So the energy minister just finished answering an urgent question. We know that on Tuesday, minority ranking member on mines and energy, John Jinapo, alleged that government was seeking to use $35 million to transport the Ameri plant from Abuaze to Kumasi. He's been answering questions on that today. He says that amount is a figment of the minority's imagination because they've not come to the conclusion in terms of the amount they are going to use to do this relocation, because the government has not yet signed the contract for the relocation to be done. Currently on the floor of Parliament is also the Agric Minister, who is answering questions about the shortage of fertilizer and other issues having to do with food security in the country. It's a full business house today because there are a lot of issues on Agric, there are issues on energy, and just this morning, this new information coming in about government deciding to seek IMF support. So it's much hotter here in Parliament today, Aisha.
Kwekwa Sante is our correspondent in Parliament. We'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. We can now hear from the Finance Minister, who has been explaining reasons for not opting for the IMF at the initial stages.
Respond to the issues, that are deep in your heart, and then we can answer them on one-on-one basis. So we can engage in a conversation in which, in the end, we are talking about the Black Star shining again, a people who are proud, a people who are prosperous, a people who are well educated, a people who are ready to share and sacrifice so that all of us, our 30 million people, will move ahead. But I can tell you, as my colleague, Deputy Minister said, we are not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not. The consequences are dire. We are a proud nation. We have the resources. We have the capacity. Don't let anybody tell you. Like when Joshua, Caleb, and the 10 others went to spy on the promised land. And only 2 of them came to say that we can do it. And the 10 went around the community murmuring, you can't, We are not people of short sight, And we have to move on, okay? So let's think of us as who we are, a proud, strong people, the shining star of Africa, and we have the capacity to do what we want to do. If only we can speak that one language and ensure that we burden share in the issues ahead.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Rosa Georgieva has been speaking on the general economic situation across the globe.
Where we are today is a very dangerous zone. Why? Because multiple factors, supply chain interruptions, the war in Ukraine, are putting pressure on prices. We need inflation under control because price stability is critical for growth. So at the IMF now we are working hard to anticipate which of our members may face balance of payment constraints, and I can tell you we are ready to step up. We have 700 billion lending capacity, and we would deploy as much as necessary. And actually, I tell our members that are with high level of debt, don't wait, don't wait. Move towards programs that would help you protect your economy. Because when capital leaves and nothing comes to guarantee stability, then countries may find themselves in a very, very tough spot. But I want to be very honest with all of you. We are for some tough time this year, next year, because of this tightening of financial conditions and the consequences of it. And let me just say one thing. The very best service we do to countries is to help them have prudent macroeconomic management, because then investors trust that this is a good place to put money in.
7 persons are confirmed dead in an accident involving 2 vehicles on the Kukum-Kwapon Road in the Sonafo South district of the Ahafo region. The firefighters from Goso and who were going to their rescue also got involved in an accident. Ahafo Regional MTTD Commander DSP Eko Gezi says none of the fire officers died. He gave more details in an interview with my colleague Samuel Brace earlier on News Desk.
They were involved in an accident, but they were not involved in the Kukum Kwapon accident. They were responding to the first accident at Kukum when they also had the accident. And 7 of the men were manning the tender. All of them got injured. 6 were treated and discharged yesterday. 1 is currently on admission. But her condition is very stable.
Who are the other victims in this accident?
The taxi cab, a Toyota taxi cab, had 7 persons on board, including the driver. All of them perished in the accident.
There were 7?
There were 7. Also had 3 passengers on board. 1 of them is confirmed. So together, 8 people are dead, and the driver of the tipper truck is currently on admission.
Interesting. Have we been able to gather what really caused the accident?
Yes, I just left the accident scene, the Kukum district office, as I speak to you. The road was recently graveled, and therefore drivers trying the road are speeding a lot on the road, on that stretch of the road. And where it's happened to, it is a cave. So according to an eyewitness, the taxi cab, which was coming from Kwapon direction to Nobeko, entered the lane of the tipper truck, and the tipper truck collided with the taxi truck and dragged it up.
Elsewhere, 2 people have been confirmed dead, with several others injured in another motor accident which occurred Thursday night at Nakwabi in the Sola Tunakalba district of the Savannah region. Police source in Sola confirmed that the accident to JoyNews and said the injured have been moved to Sola Hospital. The 2 bodies have been deposited at the West Gonja Hospital in Damongo. Savannah region correspondent Isaac Nonya joins us with more. Isaac, where exactly did this happen?
The accident happened exactly somewhere in the evening yesterday around Nakwabi between Tuna and that of Sola and Nikalaba. So when the accident, we told the driver was coming from Kumasi towards Wa. But right after Tuna Nikalaba, he moved towards Nakwabi. The place is a straight road, not even a curve. But we told the driver lost control and veered off and ran into a building. resulting in the death of 2 people on the spot. We were also told that the driver mate of the same bus vehicle was also injured and had a fracture on the left leg.
What have you gathered from the police so far?
Much of the police is not ready to speak to us, but our sources within them saying that the driver, the suspect, it was as a result of fatigue because he dozed off, and then there wasn't any deep stretch where the man suspected that he had run into. But when he dozed off and then ran into a pothole, he veered up and could not control the vehicle. Some eyewitnesses among the passengers say that they saw the driver dozing off, and before they could alert him, the vehicle has veered off the road, resulting in the accident on the spot.
Isaac, we understand robbers have attacked a provision store owner too at Soma and Sola. What more can you tell us about this robbery?
That is true. There were about 3 of them. They invaded a provisional shop and they overpowered the owner and managed to gather everything that they wanted. But before they could leave, passersby all look and raised alarm, bringing all the youth within the area to surround the robbers. 2 managed to escape, and then one of them was overpowered. But he was assaulted, and the equipment, the weapon was keeping, including the AK-47, was retrieved from him, and then he was handed over to the police together with a weapon that was taken from him. Let me add that the robbery in this particular stretch, between Tuna, Kalba, Suma, Nakwaba, up to the Solar Trek area, the area that had been earmarked as a reproach area by the police. So this is the first time that within the environment we're able to arrest a suspect and hand it over to the police. Unlike before last year, a similar thing happened close to where the robber was lynched. The weapon not given to the police.
Isaac Nonya is our correspondent in the Savannah region. Let's come back here today. It's exactly a year since 86 soldiers stormed the Tindana Crescent in the Wa municipality of the Upper West region and brutalized innocent citizens and injured over a dozen of people over snatched mobile phones. Although the soldiers who committed the inhumane act have been sanctioned by the military command, including demotions and a 30-day detention by the commanding officer, the victims are yet to be compensated over the incident. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam went back to the scene of the brutalities and reported that the worst hit victim has lost his job after he was incapacitated as a result of the drills he underwent in the hands of the soldiers.
As the sun rises in this small Tindamba Crescent, the working class are not only back, but with optimism. Same time a year ago, and on a day that the country achieved a Republican status from Great Britain, they were seen in a viral video brutalized by soldiers from the No. 10 Mechanized Agri Barracks, majority of whom have just been recruited into the service barely a month. Without the least provocation, the 86 soldiers subjected commuters and store owners on the crescent to military drills, pushing them to stagnant, dirty, water-infested mosquito gutters and flogged them severally. The horrific and despicable act shook the nation, and President Akufo-Addo, a month later in a meeting with the overlord of the Wala traditional area, Nafuseni Sidipilipo IV, could not hide his displeasure and apologized profusely to the people.
So I've come to add my voice to that of the soldiers as well as the Minister for Defense to say how sorry I am about the incident and to let you know that we will do everything possible to make sure that such an incident is not repeated.
Some of the victims had multiple wounds and others had fractures and had to be rushed to the hospital.
I can't count the many of them that was beating me. They was beating me, and they beat me. It affected my eye.
Gafur Mahama used to work at this sports betting center as a security personnel. He was flogged with horse canes, his thigh stamped on with military boots, resulting in a fracture on the thigh bone that required surgery at the Upper West Regional Hospital. Apart from his medical bills taken care of by the Upper West Regional Minister, the 5,000 Ghana cedis cash given to him by the Parliamentary Select Committee on Interior and Defense and a token he had from an unknown officer from the number 10 Mechanized Agri Barracks. He is yet to receive the compensation promise to enable him put soul and body together. He has now been laid off by the Alphabet Sports Betting as a result of his incapacitation and now depends on the benevolence of people to survive.
I am not able to walk normal. Sometimes I have severe pains from my waist joints. When that happens, I have to sit down for several minutes for the pain to go away. The parliamentary select committee was not specific, but they told me that they would help me have normal life again. But up to now, I haven't heard anything from them.
Another victim of the vicious attack of the young soldiers was this mobile vendor who was given a heavy slap, who nearly sent him falling on the ground.
I was slapped very hard that I was even about to fall out of this container. If not because of my strong legs, I would have just fallen, just fainted.
Is it affecting your work?
It's still affecting me. Till now, you will never know when that kind of thing will happen again. So you're always afraid. You can never know, maybe the next time that they are coming, they'll be coming with guns and all that. So you wouldn't know what will happen next.
Another place where the young soldiers demonstrated callous disregard for their victims and showed no remorse was inside the shop owned by Titakun businessman Brigand Yahya Salifu. Brigand is still suffering from the eye and often skips school anytime the pain aggravates.
Sometimes I can't breathe. I find it difficult to breathe, and sometimes I cough. Last week like this, I was in class when it happened. I have to stop the class and seek permission from my boss and come home to treat it. And as I do, until now, I still feel the pain sometimes. What we only want is the compensation. Once they compensate, we will know that when you beat somebody without any reason, you should pay the price.
The 86 soldiers who were involved in the inhumane act, not sanctioned by the military high command, have since been punished, including some of them having their ranks reduced and others handed a 30-day detention by the commanding officer. What is however left now is what will assuage the pain of their victims to have a normal life again. The despicable act of July 1 may have occurred a year ago. The wounds and injuries on the bodies of the victims may have completely been healed, but the trauma of the horrible and shameful act is still on the minds of the victims. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam.
We'll be speaking with the Upper West Regional Minister, Faith Bin Saleh, for a reaction on this one. But let's head towards the Ashanti region, where leadership of the National Association of Graduate Teachers is urging the National Front to declare a nationwide strike over conditions of living allowance COLA. NAGRAD earlier this month issued an end of June ultimatum for government to respond to calls to institute the allowance. Leadership says the allowance is meant to cushion teachers against the rising cost of living. Chairman of the Ashanti Regional Chapter of NAGRAD, Francis Owusu, says members in the region are waiting for a declaration from the National Front. He was speaking with Love FM's Nanaya Ojima in an interview.
By the end of June, which is ending today, if the government does not heed our call for COLA or something to cushion us, we gave our leaders in Accra, the national headquarters, the right to declare strike, so that we are down here and we are ready to sit down, lay down our tools to back the demand, because the situation is such that it is becoming unbearable. And we don't want a situation where you go to school and you don't have the peace of mind to give in your best. So we don't want to do the work in like a lackadaisical manner. We want to do it and do it well. And so what we also need to do and do it well must be provided. That is why we are calling for that. Some people might think that we are being selfish. No, it is for the good of the job. Because if I don't have the teaching materials to teach, I have to. We are trained to what we call to do something we call improvise. So it means that I'll have to do certain things to make sure the child understands what I am teaching. And so whatever I need to, sometimes it costs money to do all these things. You see that? And so if the little amount I am giving is not enough, we are giving at the end of the year a little amount for upgrading and the rest. But that money should actually not be for the materials which the government is supposed to provide. So those ones we will have to do and provide them. As I speak now, I have downloaded a book, that geography book, which is going to cost me a lot to print because it's online, and it's a very good book I need for my students. So I have downloaded it. You have to use credit to do that, and after that you have to print. It is nearly 400 pages. So if you are to print that, and if one page costs these days, one page costs 1 cedi, then it means you know how much you're going to pay for a single book and the rest. And you can't use one book to teach. We have to use a lot of them so that you can accumulate the ideas and that you can teach. So it is also in a way making the situation worse. So we are calling on the government to also expedite action on that one.
We're still live on JoyNews today, and we'll be taking a break. When we return, we'll bring you the very latest coming from the world of business.
Hello, good afternoon. Let's do business now with me, Beverly Broom. The Bank of Ghana Ladies Association has donated medical equipment to the Volta Regional Hospital at Hohoe to enhance quality healthcare delivery. The medical equipment, according to the president of the association, is to help improve quality healthcare delivery, especially in the case of women in the Hohoe municipality.
Donating the items, the president of POGLA, Ms. Ivy Ajima, recounted how the association was appealed to for an ultrasound scan machine. And looking at the importance of the machines, they decided among themselves, ladies, to provide the hospital with a machine to help the patients, especially women. She noted that the association was glad to fulfill their promise by donating the machine to the hospital because they realized how important it was with diagnosis.
On behalf of the Bank of Ghana Ladies Association, BOGLA, in the dedication of an ultrasound scanner to the Hohoe Regional Hospital. The call on us for an ultrasound scan machine was to us an emotional appeal and a life-saving necessity that required an urgent provision, given the importance of the machine, especially its assistance with diagnosis and consequently the existing clinical deficiency due to its unavailability. Sincerely, I must confess that we are so much delighted for being able to redeem our pledge by providing for the hospital a completely new Midday DC 30 ultrasound scanner for its health.
The Volta Regional Manager of the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Victor Akapo, noted that the donation was one of the many donations made by the association to the hospital. Administrator of the hospital, Mr. Charles Tokonu, expressed gratitude to the Bank of Ghana Ladies Association for their kind gesture towards improving efficient and effective health delivery in the Hohoe municipality.
The Bank of Ghana is very much concerned about the health of staff and the general public as a whole, and will be grateful for proper care and good maintenance. Maintenance culture is adapted to keep the machine in good working condition to help the hospital continue to deliver quality health care in the Kojo. I think now it's in the water region.
Away from that, the National Internal Auditors Association has said being independent under the proposed Internal Audit Service will strengthen the fight against corrupt practices in the public sector of Ghana. Speaking at the association's Congress in Sunyani, the president of the association, Michael Ayivi, appealed to Parliament and other stakeholders to embrace and fast-track the process of passing the bill into an act. Precious Semevo has more in the following report.
The 6th Annual Congress of the National Internal Auditors Association of Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies and Regional Coordinating Councils in Sunyani was on the theme, Fighting Corruption through Strengthening the Independence of Internal Audit of the Public Sector of Ghana. Internal auditors ensure that an organization complies with relevant laws and statutes, among other duties, but the Operations Director of the Internal Auditors Agency, Nathan Yankee, on behalf of the Director General, said despite the many anti-corruption measures, the Act continues to the detriment of the country's development.
The problem of inadequate compliance with financial management processes continues to undermine the revenue mobilization and effective expenditure management goals of government. It has become critical to address fiscal indiscipline and minimize corruption and waste in the management of public resources while ensuring that development is attained with the limited resources available. Therefore, addressing these challenges in a systemic manner, including strengthening the independence of the public sector internal auditing, is critical to an effective IAA and the public sector internal audit function to wage a successful fight against corruption in Ghana.
The president of the National Internal Auditors Association, Michael Ayivi, said stakeholders supporting their independence to fight corruption through the creation of the Internal Audit Service would help protect the public interest without fear.
When the Internal Audit Service is created, we would become members of the Internal Audit Service. We would work under the Director General of the Internal Audit Service. He will be in charge of our resources, our promotion, and everything, our training. Our resources to work with will not be determined by our bosses, people we are auditing. For everybody who has any opportunity to help bring the bill into being, we are appealing to that person so that when we have the independence, we are not going to hunt, but we are going to help, we will have that freedom to help management without fear or favor. In any case, when there are witches, they must be hunted. So if you don't hunt the witches, they will hunt us. That is what we mean by adding value to the organization.
The Chief Director of the Local Government Service, James Upon Mensah, on behalf of the head of the service, said the independence of the auditor goes beyond the creation of institutions.
The independence of the internal auditor is crucial and critical in reducing infractions. However, it must be appreciated that the independence of the auditor resides in the behavior of the personalities and entities involved, which requires integrity, professionalism, and objective approach.
That's all for business now. We have more business coming up on Marketplace at 1 p.m. Up next is sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullah. Have a good afternoon.